Here we go. And we are rolling. All right, everybody. Welcome to a Hot Takes edition of Bid Nerds. Hello, everybody. I looked at the wrong place. There's no camera over there. I don't know why I'm looking at the microphone. I should be looking at the audience. You guys, how are you? My name is John Polnick. I'm the host of Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer, coming to you live from the Las Vegas Strip. You can see it right behind me, along with my partner, Michael Deeb, coming to you from San Francisco Bay. How you doing, Michael Deeb?
Excellent, JP. Good evening.
Good evening. So most of you know that this is a morning show, but this is our hot take. This is something that we like to do. We like to talk about the most interesting car on the internet of the day. So sometimes there's something that just comes out. It's the big deal. That's what everyone's talking about. And half the time we see these cars that are the big deal, I just say to myself, and maybe you do the same thing, it's like, man, there's so many other cars that are better than this latest, greatest big thing. In fact, I just saw something that would be better than that on Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer. And so that's what we're going to do. If you saw the thumbnail today, you probably saw a pretty picture of a Chevrolet 2000. Was this a 22, Michael Deeb?
Yep.
Chevrolet Corvette ZO6. This is the C8 version. It's the brand new one. Everyone's been talking about the Corvette since it came out, the new C8. It's kind of the belle of the ball right now. It seems like people can't get enough of this darn car. Michael Deeb, why don't you tell people about this Z06? Because this is above and beyond what the regular C8 is. So let's talk about it.
So JP, this is probably the most eagerly anticipated Corvette of all time. Chevrolet has been threatening to switch to a mid-engine design every other decade for the past 40, 50 years. The C8 finally did that, and you have teed up the C7 there, JP.
Oh, sorry, guys. Wrong car.
So the C8...
Everybody's super excited about it, but that's not the right car.
The C8 Corvette has arrived with a mid-engine and a ridiculously low sticker price. For about $65,000, you can buy yourself a 500 horsepower mid-engine American V8 that will run circles around almost any other car at the racetrack. It is absolutely a super car on a budget, and it's actually pretty easy on the eyes. I'm not a huge fan of some of the fit and finish. Some of the pieces on it are plastic. But the anticipation pointing towards the Z06 in this platform is absolutely off the chart. This is seriously one of the most talked about and eagerly anticipated cars of all time. So what we can expect now is that, unlike the C7 Z06, Chevrolet will shy away from forced induction and move back to a normally aspirated motor. And this is spectacular because what we're looking at, the rumor mill has it that this will be a 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8 that should rev, because of the flat plane crank, should rev to about 8,500 or 9,000 RPM. We're talking well over 600 horsepower and well over 400 foot-pounds of torque. All of this, and we expect the sticker to start at around $85,000. So you're talking about a car that sounds like a Ferrari, goes like a Ferrari, but is priced like a Mustang. So, I'm actually a little excited. If the car winds up looking anything like the spy photos or some of the renderings that we see on the internet, then we can expect this car to sell like hotcakes and dealers to mark them up at an eye-watering amount. It's just amazing. The only knock on this car that I can say so far is that we expect it to arrive only with a dual-clutch transmission. And if Chevrolet does not offer this car with a 6-speed manual, not the 7-speed that's in the regular Corvette, but a 6-speed manual, they're making a huge mistake. I really think they should do that. Kind of the way Porsche acquiesced to their legion of fans and started to offer a GT3 with a manual transmission. The Speedster, the Touring, those comes with a manual. This Z06, as badass as it is, should be offered with a manual. But what do you think, JP? Take it away.
Yeah, man. Sorry about those photos there. I mean, we're trying to go off Motor Trend. We don't source these photos. These are just photos off the interwebs. The Corvette mid-engine thing just doesn't bother me at all. I think it's great. I think it's awesome that Chevrolet has said, you know what, we're taking risks. We're going to make the car better, and let's do it. I still, but the thing that I've always loved about American cars, like the Camaro and the Mustang and the Corvette, and these are not cars that I particularly like, but the thing I like about them is that you can walk into a Chevrolet dealership or a Chrysler dealer, a Dodge dealership or a Chevy dealership or wherever, and they have a Camaro with a manual 5-speed in it or a 6-speed.
Right.
They have a Corvette with a 6-speed in it or a 7-speed manual. They're sitting there on the floor. You don't have to order one. You don't have to, wait 9 months and get on a list and make sure that you buy every other crappy car that the manufacturer makes in order to be allowed to buy one. It's sitting there for you to take away and drive. You can go down there. If you decide today that you want a 7-speed manual, or is it a 6-speed? I don't know. Hellcat. You can just go to one of the 8 Chrysler dealerships, in your market and go get one right now. If you have the money, it could be in your garage in as little as a couple of hours. Whereas if you want a Porsche variant with a manual, it may not be available at all. Or if you do, you're going to be waiting for a very, very long time or paying a premium that's absurd. So this Z06 is something that I'm with you. The styling doesn't do it for me. I think it's too whiz bang, and that's not just the Z06. I think that's the the Corvette in general. Some of the angles just are. I mean, it's very American Corvette sensibilities. But I get that some people like that and they want that kind of flashiness. And gosh, the car just performs. How realistic do you think it is that it will actually have a manual? Do you think it's going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, right now they're not speculating that it's going to be offered with one, but I would think even if they don't make it in the first year, they have to develop a manual for this car. Yeah. It would be one of the great driver's cars of all time. Let's talk about this in context of its new competitors, right? So a GT3 RS that has 700 horsepower is only a dual clutch. All of the Ferraris are only dual clutch. Most of your Astons are dual clutch. Jaguar doesn't make a car fast enough to keep up with this. The Audi is only, and the Lamborghini are only dual clutch transmissions. So if Corvette made this 3,000 pounds, 600 horsepower, rear wheel drive, mid-engine supercar with a 6-speed or even a 7-speed manual, there'd be no competition. Like there'd be a line around
literally
the block.
There wouldn't be any competition. There'd be nobody else selling anything like that.
Nothing like it.
Is the Porsche GT4, is that going to have a manual?
It is.
GT4
and it's
RS. No, I'm sorry. The GT4 RS, is that going to have a manual?
Probably not. The educated guess would be that it's not. Yeah. But even just the GT4, which is a actually decent comparison because it's around the same money and it's going to be a car that people will select as a track toy, a weekend car that you would take to the track. That car will have a manual. But while that car has extremely beautiful balance and is a wonderful car and gives you great feedback and is an excellent driver's car, it can't keep up with this Corvette. There's just no way. There's no way.
I mean, displacement. You just can't replace that.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is going to be a monster. And oh my gosh. Yeah. And the thing is, they're going to make enough of them that you would think that the development cost would make it cost effective to go ahead and build, even though it would be a transmission for one car and one car only. Right. I mean, they're not going to put that transmission or anything else. And I'm sure that's why they haven't done it already, but they're going to make tens of thousands of Corvettes a year. And that transmission would translate from both the Z06 to the regular ones. So that's got to pencil out for them.
Yeah. Here's my take on this. My guess is that they're talking about it with a dual clutch transmission so that as this car continues to develop, before they release it, they'll take it to the Nürburgring with a dual clutch transmission where it's a superior gearbox to get the best ring time. And they'll go set a track record with it, splash the internet, and then the car will bow in an auto show and there'll be lines around the block. And then they'll announce that they're making a manual, but they're not going to test the manual because the manual is not going to set the records. The dual clutch is. And so I'm guessing that's what they're going to do. But I mean, that's just based on being a fanboy of magazines and watching all these things unveil. And the ring has become such an important part of the marketing strategy, even for an American car. So that would be my guess.
That makes sense. All right, so this car, look, it says it's going to be $85,000 base price, but there's no way you're getting one of these for that price, right? How much more are you paying for one of these?
50 grand, I'm guessing 50
Yeah.
grand. And the first guys, the first 6 months, there'll be idiots that'll pay, 60 and $85,000 over for one of these things.
Yeah.
But I think down the road, you could probably pick one up. And so if it's 85 with options, it's 95, $100,000. So you're looking at between $125 and $150,000 to park a Z06 in your garage, at least for the first 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So your budget really isn't $85,000. Your budget is really up there in that 100 plus. I mean, it's funny to say that that's a bargain, and that this is like some kind of value. But when you're talking about supercars or even hypercar level, which this car is kissing, is right there, if not better than some hypercars. This thing, would you, if you were in the market, if you're like, you know what, I've got that 100 to 120 grand, you're saying, I think I want to buy another really cool car for my garage. Is this on your list, or is there something that you've seen on Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer that you prefer?
It is, but listen, hear me out. It's not because it's a Corvette. I don't care that it's a Corvette. I don't care that it's domestic. It's on my list because it's mid-engine and because it's normally aspirated and it's going to rev to maybe 9,000 RPM. That's why it's on my list. I happen to like the shape of the car. Again, some of the fit and finish is not for me. It's a little too boy racer. But if they make a stick shift in that, it's on my list because everything else isn't going to be as fun to drive and it's going to cost way more money. The Audi is almost 200, the Lamborghini's 250, and the Ferrari F8 is 300 plus. This car undercuts all of them and will probably run circles around most of them, especially if you're a good driver, because most of the guys that bought those cars can't drive them anyways. So if you're even remotely good behind the wheel and you're in this Corvette, you'll embarrass those fools. I mean, it's hilarious.
All right. So what have you seen? Is there anything on Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids that you've seen in the last couple months? We review car. So if you're a Bid Nerds fan, it's your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. We do that every day, Monday through Friday, during the 9 o'clock hour in the morning, Pacific time. So if you're kind of deciding, I'm going to cruise, Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer, check out the channel and see what we have to say about the cars of the day. And maybe we'll talk about one of the cars that you're considering buying, or just want to hear what we have to say, and we'd love to hear you tell us that we're completely wrong. Have you seen anything in that price range that you would rather have than this Corvette?
So on Bring a Trailer JP back in September of 2019, seller Satman out of Fort Lee, New Jersey, sold his 2015 Porsche 911 GT3. Car had just 12,000 miles on it. The reason why I like this as a comparison and why this is a car I would love to have is that this car also comes with a 7-speed PDK gearbox. It's got sports seats. It's rear engine. It's rear wheel drive. This is a fantastic track car. This car will invite you and dare you to go up to your limit and spend time at your personal limit, which is well below the limit of what the car can do in a given turn, on a given circuit, on any given day. This car will make you a better driver. The sound of this motor is actually pretty good. It's not, what's his name?
Metzger.
Who's our favorite? It's not a Metzger engine, but this car still sounds amazing because this damn thing revs to nearly 9,000 RPM. In fact, I think it is a 9,000 RPM car. So 2-seat only. Purpose built, no nonsense, no frills. It's similar to what the Z06 is to the Corvette. This to the 911 is the best of the breed. It's a track car. It's easily recognizable as a GT3. It's wonderfully comfortable on the street. It'll hold its value really well. And you can wail on it on a track day or on one of your favorite car rallies. If you want to cheat and take it on the Professor run or drive it over Overton, you could do a lot worse than driving a GT3. So I like this at $110,000. That is a stellar value, and I think this is a tremendous car for the money.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say anything bad about a GT3. I mean, come on, GT3s are where it's at. But I am curious, why would you choose now? Maybe I'm guessing you chose the 991 version because it has the PDK and it is it's something closer to the Corvette. Okay, so I get that.
To me this was a fair comparison,
Well, and I guess that's the question here, and maybe that's the exercise. Are we comparing, or are we saying what would we rather have? Because frankly, I mean, at a $120, of course, the first thing that came to my mind is a GT3 of some sort, and I'm thinking 997 GT3, because you could get a 997 GT3 with a manual transmission, and that's I'd way rather have a 997 variant with a manual transmission. Heck, I've seen some of the higher mileage RSs, we're talking 30,000 miles, have even come down in that $120 range, which is kind of the same market as what the Z06 is going to be. But you chose a 991. That's interesting.
Just because of the gearbox. That's the only reason. And I had a feeling you'd pick a car with a manual, and I think you did, right?
Yeah, I did. And, I kind of had a feeling you would go GT3, and I didn't want us to just talk about two different GT3s. Figured we could talk two different GT3s by just picking one. The game here really isn't let's compare one car that's, what car out there on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer is similar to. It's more, at least the way I see this, it's a who'd you rather. Right. So, and I got to say, but the comparison factor is something that's kind of important, right? I mean, because it can't just be like, well, I'd rather have some other car that's completely different. I'd rather have a $100,000 Escalade. Well, that's not the exercise, right?
Yeah.
So,
so the C7 Corvette Z06 had forced induction, and a lot of guys ran out and bought that car to be their track day car. And all of those cars, Corvette, as far as I understand, never fixed it. Those cars all overheated. They had cooling problems. So in Southern California, in Phoenix, Arizona, in Las Vegas, Nevada, if that was your track day car, you were hosed. I mean, literally, you got hoses, and you were having problems with overheating. That's a big deal. And so we don't know what or if any there could be a problem. We don't know if or what any that could be cost prohibitive to get a Z06. So today, if that was my budget and I had to wait for the Z06, I'd pick up that GT3, and I think that'd be a great car to prepare me for what the GT3 could be, or a great alternate, because I didn't want to wait. I would select the GT3 knowing that it's almost unflappable. You can go do lap after lap after lap. The brakes don't fade. You just run out of tires before you run out of energy. And that says a lot about a car that you could rail on in the track anywhere in the country at any time of the year.
Well, I think part of the exercise too, if you think about it, I mean, okay, so another comparison, I think the thing about the GT3, and as much as I love a GT3, they're just not flashy enough for the Corvette guy, right? I mean, I prefer being less flashy, but part of the appeal of a Corvette is to be like, look at me, I'm in a Corvette, I have a Corvette. It's the go-to car if you win the lottery and live in a trailer park. You're like, I guess I go get a vet now. Do I get a Hellcat, a Corvette, or whatever? I mean, or whatever the Ford thing is. So I when I was looking at this, yes, I wanted to go immediately GT3, but I kind of felt we needed something to be a little bit more flashy, and nothing says flashy like
look at that,
like a Ferrari, right? I mean, look at that thing. This is a 2000 Modena 360 Ferrari. These are a little bit more reliable than the older Ferraris, or at least you could. You could actually maintain these without having to remove the engine. You're the Ferrari expert, so I should really let you talk about this car. But the thing that's most interesting to me, I mean, it's beautiful. It's black on black. I like that color combo. It says, it's just screaming at you that, I'm Italian and I'm going to kick your ass and I might brake while I'm doing it, but who cares? I'll look better than you. But it has a 6-speed manual transmission, a gated manual transmission.
Fantastic,
Yeah, and I mean, from an analog point of view, it's closer to the Corvette than the GT3 because it's a mid-engine, car with a V8.
That's right. That's right. With a V8, a flat plane crank V8. The car that you selected is a European example. It's interesting only because the Ferrari market in this country doesn't support the European cars as well as the domestic cars. So I would say with the low miles on this car and the racing seats and the manual transmission, had this been a U.S. car, this would have been $25,000 to $40,000 more on Bring a Trailer. So the Euro factor kind of holds this car back. But yeah, JP, that 6-speed gated manual is really easy to drive. These cars are very forgiving. I will correct you on that. They do have a timing belt on these that needs to be serviced every few years. And so you have to drop the motor on these to get that out. So there is an expensive service interval every 3 to 5 years, depending on how uptight you are. But the following car, the 430s, have a chain-driven cam, and you don't have to drop the motor. You could just adjust the cam timing without having to remove the motor. So that was the big upgrade.
I thought the 360 was the first one.
No, just after this. But JP, this car at $86,000 is a tremendous value and an excellent alternate to the Z06. I would argue that you'll get more attention in this car and that the motor sounds just as good, if not better. 360s, the engine note and the exhaust note on a 360 is one of the best standard systems ever to come out of Maranello, Italy. This thing, the motor is right behind your ear, and when this thing runs around the clock and gets up to like 8,500 RPM, you feel like you're in a race car. It's incredible. So it's a great selection.
Yeah, it's funny because the thing you hear most about the Corvette, if I had to basically take the one comment that I've heard about the C8 more than any other comment about it is, it looks just like a Ferrari. Well, it's like, okay, well, get a goddamn Ferrari if that's what you want. If you want to look like one, for that money, you can get one. And you can get one that, frankly, is better. And in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, the Z06 is going to be a $20,000 car if you're lucky, right? You can go get a 1990 ZR1, right now, or, for $20,000. You can get a 2000, whatever Z06 for $18,600.
So
they're everywhere, and nobody's going to care about that car in a few years. People care about it right this second, and that's why we're talking about it. But in a nanosecond, it's going to be just the next thing will come along. So I think if you're going to spend that kind of money, you could get something like this Ferrari, and this Ferrari is going to be worth more and more and more, and you're always going to be cool. You're always going to be classy. You're always going to be flashy, and you're always going to be fast, and you're probably going to have to spend a lot more money to keep it on the road, but over that 20 years. But at least you'll still have a Ferrari at the end of the day that may actually appreciate.
Yeah. All right, JP. So to conclude the show of the three cars, which one would you select? And I would have to say, I'll start.
Yeah.
I'd probably, for $86,000, I would take that Ferrari over either of the other two cars.
Well, hold on, though. Cool your jets, Turbo.
Yeah.
This car did not sell for $86,000.
Oh, bid to $86,000. There you go. I just noticed that. Yeah.
Failed to sell. So my guess, if you want this car, if you want a Ferrari like this one, and that was in October of 20, it didn't make it, which really, really surprised me. I think this is a $120,000 car.
I agree.
So
I actually just sold one for $125,000.
Well, there you go. So gosh dang it, I want this car. But it's a no-brainer for me. I'm getting the Ferrari, and then the next in line would be the GT3 that you chose, and then. If I won a Z06 in a contest or went down to the casino that's over my shoulder here,
they'll
park one in front over on top of a slot machine. If I won that car, I'd be just like, can you just give me a check? Do I have to drive it? I don't want to be seen in it. I will tell you a quick story. I don't know, years ago, a buddy of mine wanted me to help him sell a Corvette that he inherited from his father. And, at the time, it was like a 2 or 3 year old C6 probably, and it was a convertible. It was red, and it was automatic. And I remember driving that car, and I'm in my 40s at the time, and I'm just like going, I look like such a tool. I just wanted to drive the car, just like, don't look. You can't see me, right? You can't see me. Oh my god.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's so embarrassing. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, listen, JP, final judgment on the Z06 remains to be after we hear this thing go by. I have a sneaky suspicion that no matter how silly the car looks, when you hear one go by, you're gonna be like, damn, that's cool.
Maybe I'm, maybe what I'm not admitting to the audience is that I don't want to drive one because I don't want to be flipped. Maybe it's just that deep down inside, I know that if I get behind the wheel of one, I might actually want one, and that we can't have that. That just can't be a thing.
I can't rent a moped on my Hawaiian vacation because then I'll go home and buy one. And God forbid somebody see me on a moped.
Exactly. All right, everyone. Well, this has been a Bid Nerds Hot Take Who'd You Rather, where we compare a hot car of the day to a car that you can get on an auction site like Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be doing a lot of these, so look for more of them. And let us know what cars you would rather have than a Z06 Corvette, a 2022 C8. We want to hear what you guys think. Is there a car in Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer that we should have said would have been a better analog choice? Let us know. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of our thoughts. And subscribe, like, share the channel. Let everybody know that we're doing this thing. And find us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock hour, where we nerd out on the most interesting cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. My name is John Polnick, along with my partner, Michael Deeb. This has been a Bid Nerds Hot Take Who'd You Rather. See you next time.
All right.
Thanks, Deeb.